Okay.
Good
Lord. I do.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the McCoy chat, the McCoy channel, I should say channel. We are so excited to have our own channel now to speak about issues that are impacting communities of color, how Andrew Yang's policies will elevate communities of color, and anything that's current, fresh, or in the news, and then topics people would never even think about. So we're going to each introduce ourselves. Do you guys who wants to start?
Oh, hey guys. I'm Genie Shinobi. Follow me on Twitter. This is going to be a really fun, lighthearted, well, okay, not with the subject matters we're going over, but great experience and for everyone, and I'm so glad to be here. And hi, chat. Hey, ask as many questions as you want. Come through.
Hi.
Interact with us. All right?
Elle, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Elle. I'm from South Florida. You can follow me on Twitter or not. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here, to just talk about everything that's going on. So, yeah.
Ashley, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Yes. My name is Ashley. My Twitter name is AshoWorld, ASHOWORLD. It was named after Astroworld since I'm from Houston. So yeah, we created this channel so we can talk about Black issues because we don't feel like Black issues are talked a lot about in the Yang campaign and the Yang gang. So we're glad to be here.
And I'm Aarika Simone. I am a teacher. I'm a very passionate elementary school teacher. I love being a part of the Yang Gang. I canvassed for Andrew, and we're just so excited to come together to have meaningful conversations and just have real conversations, right? Like, are you guys is that kind of like consensus here?
Yeah.
Yes. You don't know what happened to Ronald, though. Ronald will be back, I'm sure.
I think he left trying to get me back in the chat, but I don't know. Hopefully he gets back.
So it's
just volunteered you as tribute.
So it's our first episode, obviously, and we're going to be here every Tuesday night. There's a bunch of people that are Andrew Yang supporters that are people of color. So we'll have different personalities every single week. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and tune in every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But tonight we are going to start with the Joe Biden comment because that was a big, huge catastrophe on so many levels. And so that's our first topic. So who wants to share their reaction to Biden's comment?
I laughed a lot. It was a very funny comment. I'm gonna be honest. Like I know, I know, but I laughed my ass off But on the other hand, I can definitely see the outrage. Like just taking away people's Blackness and the snap of a finger is very, alarming. But I don't know. Some people would take that deal, but you can't just take it off. Somebody else?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, it was hilarious, but not hilarious in a way that, let's brush it off. It was hilarious in the fact that like Biden says probably what all the Democrats in Congress say behind closed doors. Democrats have been taking the Black vote for granted for a long time. So this isn't really news to us. But it was hilarious in the fact that Biden didn't seem to have any restraint in telling the conversations that goes on probably like off the record in the White House.
Right.
I felt like it was amazing that Tobe, welcome. I felt it was awesome that Charlemagne held Biden to a very high standard. And we were just on the Matt and Zach show. Shout out to Matt. Thank you so much for helping us launch this channel. But like Charlemagne was right to ask him to come back because they had a 20-minute interview. And that's not enough time to dive into the issues that are impacting the Black community. And also, Biden kept saying, look at my record, look at my record. This record is not that great. So to ask questions only seems fitting. So I was just really annoyed by the comment. I just thought it was inappropriate.
mean, I feel like I'm kind of on like what Genie said, where he just kind of laughed, because like I heard people's comments before actually watching the interview. I watched the interview afterwards, so I thought it was going to be like some really terrible, catastrophic like thing. And then like from what he said, I was just like, oh, hi, I see. Yeah, I guess it was kind of a joke, but like kind of like what Aarika was saying, you know, like like we just like from like what the Democratic Party has done and like, you know, like pretty much like what they say behind closed doors and everything. It's like just kind of seeing it come to light. And, you know, it's not something that could just easily just be like brushed off. You know, like this is something that does need to be spoken about, even like as joking as it may sound.
Yeah, absolutely. Toby, what's your take on the Biden comment?
Oh Lord. I wasn't even personally offended, but it was just like, I remember I posted something about it on my Facebook, which sparked a whole controversy, I guess. I was like, I'm pretty sure most Black people are not really pro you or pro Trump, but I was like, but go off. And then some people were commenting really about like, oh, you know, you're overreacting. And I was like, I don't really take offense to a lot of things personally, like very few things. So I was just like, it was a dumb thing to say. It's already like a lot of arrogance and sort of like we saw in 2016, there were many people who just stayed home and people who weren't feeling either party in the system. So saying something like that's just tone deaf and just like a kind of not your place to make these type of comments. But I mean, I kind of laughed. Like I saw a lot of the responses on Twitter. I saw a lot of the comments on YouTube. Oh my gosh, that thing was like so many dislikes on the YouTube video of the Breakfast Club interview. And it was a bit of a rambling interview as well. Like, I don't know really what was going on during that whole thing. So
do you guys think that that comment is going to like kind of provoke a lot of Black people to not vote for him in 2024? I mean 2020
or 2024.
I always think of Andrew, that's why I say 2024. But do you think people are going to still vote for him come November?
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, like I'm like kind of feeling that like the similarities of 2016, like no matter what Donald Trump said, you know, you could like people would still vote for him. Like this is, I feel like the same kind of thing, but not quite as much, like not quite as bad or like, you know, crazy. Cause like, I highly doubt that this is the craziest thing Joe Biden will say until November.
Oh yeah.
So let's see. But no, I don't think this particular comment would like stop people from voting. Maybe like 5 people. Like
to me, it kind of brought me back to when Hillary Clinton said the hot sauce in her bag. It brought me to like those moments, and it's like,
you know, I'm kind of like in between. Like I feel like I definitely do think it'll have an effect. Not just this comment, but I mean, like stats show that like the Black support for the Democrats has like decreased since the Obama years. I was looking at some stats before the show, and it shows that since 2008, the number of Black Democrats has decreased by 5%. And that was like during Obama's election. And in 2016, 11% of Black 2012 Obama voters didn't vote in 2016. Wow. So what we're seeing is like the Democratic Party is going downhill. Like we know that Black voters have been the backbone of the Democratic Party for decades. And when you lose us, then yeah, you should be alarmed. And this comment of Biden taking the Black vote for granted, that will not help the Democrats' case at all. They made a terrible, terrible mistake thinking Biden being the nominee would get Black voters. I think it's the fact that Biden was, you know, Obama's VP for 8 years, and Black people still hold Obama to like high standards. And I mean, that's another topic, but you know, I think Black people are starting to wake up. I definitely think that. Like, I think the fact that more Black people are becoming independents, and even Republicans, there's some like Black people who are actually vowed to vote for Trump. And what you see with these Trump ads, are, the Trump campaign going after Black voters because they know they have a case. They, the Biden, Trump has already started releasing ads of Biden saying, if you don't vote for me, you ain't Black. And so, and then also Trump's claim to fame being the unemployment numbers, which doesn't really mean anything. I mean, if you break it down on like what poverty actually is, but I mean, his argument is that the unemployment numbers have been the lowest ever, or lowest in decades, or something like that.
Well, I don't like numbers. I don't like that he says that, because there are a lot of people that like I don't like that. Trump tries to paint out this picture that the economy is booming and all that stuff, but he doesn't ever say for who. He doesn't ever say for who. And I take real issue with that. But also, I don't feel like Biden particularly, which is why I feel like Charlamagne was right to say that we need to hold you to a high standard, is what are your policies? Like, what are you specifically going to do? I can't name a Biden policy. Can any of you?
Obama years.
And that's a problem. And that's a huge problem, because right now what we need are solutions. We need, to be able to get like things done. And I guess that's why I like Andrew Yang personally, but
I think we all do on this channel.
Yeah. To be honest, I really think that Biden has a lot more clout than Hillary does. Like in 2016, comparing 2016 Hillary to 2020 Biden is not a one-to-one comparison. Like, people readily think that Hillary Clinton murders people. Like, her PR was so bad that people were just ripping her to shreds right before the election. And that's when, everything went off the hook. But I don't know if Biden necessarily has this in the bag, though. That's still, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Oh no, he doesn't have this in the bag. No, not at all. Like, the Democrats are making a huge mistake thinking that Biden still has it in the bag. He does not. He won't be getting the young vote. More people are becoming independent this year, especially young people. And like my mom in particular, she's identified as an independent since the last election. I think Black people Black voters will be his saving grace, but I don't even think he has Black voters in the bag, because I mean, you can't really compare Hillary and Biden, because as we see in the primaries, that Biden won states by a land mile, that Hillary lost badly in 2016. So I don't think we can compare Hillary and Biden, but also, I don't really know if it's just like a Hillary kind of thing. I think it's just like the Democrats are just like suffering. Like they have lost their vision. I don't know if they ever had a vision, but they aren't doing a good job, at least faking it.
The thing I'm worried about is that, like, I know these gaffes are like really funny right now. It's funny, sometimes defensive, sometimes it kind of worries you. But once you get on the debate stage, oh man, I don't know what's gonna happen. Trump might hit him with one. Trump might pull a Tulsi on him. Who knows?
Oh.
Toby, what do you think of the future of the Democratic Party?
Yeah, definitely the numbers are not great, like the 5-point slide. And I know I saw some of the stats you posted, Ashley, before this. And I know that there's been some historically, the Democratic Party and I guess the Republican Party actually surprisingly were pretty even with Black votes back in the 30s and the 20s. And then, of course, the Civil Rights Act happened. And then all of a sudden just skyrocketed up. And I remember kind of hearing this thing recently that the Democratic Party can just take them for granted and they don't have to do anything to really keep the Black vote. And then the Republican Party just basically abandoned any kind of effort to appeal to them. And that's what you've been seeing with Congress and senators. You don't have many, like Will Hurd, one of the last Black Republicans in Congress, is retiring. And then you have like one Black senator. So I feel like the Democrats have really been taken for granted, but now Trump somehow has actually gotten more of a share of the Black vote than like most modern Republicans, which is bewildering. But like there's some kind of dissatisfaction, and I guess the idea of like Hillary, like you said, Hillary, she really just there's just this kind of loathing that a lot of people had in the Black community, even though she did very well among, like, I guess, the Democratic primary voters compared to Bernie. When it came to general voters, we saw in like Detroit and other places, they were not for her. So I feel like there were some people who like the idea of a change and a shake-up agent, including like a lot of people in the Black community. Now, they didn't like go for Trump in like huge numbers, but I don't think that number is going to go down. Like I can only see more people going for Trump, or like Trump can at least dissuade enough people to not go for the Democrats. Like the Trump campaign has been doing a lot of the ads, of course, the pop culture stuff. They were even like doing certain mail efforts in like Florida and other states to try to like show how bad the Democratic Party has been for, I guess, Black people. So they're not really trying to get a lot of new support, but they really are trying to cut the margins and really, I guess you could say, suppress the vote by essentially exposing certain truths about the Democratic Party, which, I mean, the Democratic Party should reckon with that. But I feel like there hasn't been a great honest conversation. Instead, it's been, oh, you're a coon and you're whatever, and Uncle Tom, if you're going down this road. But you like really have to look at why Hispanic and Black people have been voting more for Trump than we've seen before.
I was going to say, I just think it comes down to now we just want results. You know, we want to see, you know, things working for us again. You know, we want to see the inequality gap, you know, just kind of like close a little bit. We want to see our education, you know, fixed. We want to make sure that all we're asking is for equality. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think that's the most important thing, is that we just want to be treated fairly. We are seeing it in the injustice in police brutality. We're seeing it in our education. We're seeing it in our criminal justice system. We're seeing it in, you know, getting loans. We're constantly seeing this unfairness. And I think Ashley's dead right. I think that, you know, African Americans are waking up and they're holding the standard is high now. You know, you're not going to just get our vote and do nothing. And I'm glad that she said that. Someone did ask Ashley a specific question. I think Ashley should address it.
How old was her mom?
Yeah.
How old was her mom, and like when did she register to vote?
Ashley, for that, is that okay?
My mom, she's like 47. I don't know the exact age, but I know she's in her late 40s. She's like 47 or 48. She's identified as a Democrat her whole life. And so, yeah, she did vote for Obama in 2008 and 2012. I actually went to the inauguration in 2008. I did. And it was, I didn't understand like how historic it was at the moment. You know, I was like super, super young. I'm 20 right now, and I think I was like 8 or 9 or something like that when I went to the inauguration. So, you know, it's kind of weird, like when you're young and you see a Black president, you're just like, okay, it's not really that big of a deal. But I'm sure like if you're like 60 or 70 years old, you're just like, whoa, this is something that I never thought would happen. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I definitely understand like the criticism behind Obama. There's a lot of criticism to be had, but I think we oftentimes don't talk about like what his presidency meant for Black people and what it meant for the Black movement. I think, well, I know for a fact his presidency will go down in history books. Like, do you know how long America has lasted? And do you know like the history Black people have had in America? They would have never in a million years let a Black person, a Black man, become president in this country. And the fact that, you know, it took more than just Black people voting for him says a lot. And like, you know, it's not just like Black people only like him. You know, white people still hold him to a high standard. I mean, his family, Michelle Obama and Barack Obama as well. Like they're seen as icons in America. You know, and oftentimes I don't really think them being icons has to do with like what they did while in the White House. It just has to do with like the image they had.
Yeah. Well,
the fact that they did that.
Yeah, but you know, the one thing we can say about Obama is he carried himself well. You know, he definitely carried himself like a role model leader. But the thing is, he was also put in a really bad position because as soon as he was elected, they were not even willing to work with him at all. they did not make it easy for him to get things passed. And I think it's important to not overlook that. And to be the first Black person of anything is like a lot of pressure in general, you know? And I keep saying I love that she said that, but it is historical what he did to be he actually, for a Black man to be elected before a woman is actually, I was actually shocked.
Yeah.
Y'all feel, but I was like, for real?
Everyone thought Hillary would be the president in 2008. Like, she was up in the polls by a lot. And then Barack Obama, some guy with a funny name, which is what he used to say, and some guy who nobody had ever heard of before became president. That was historic. And I mean, it's worth talking about. But I mean, we have to like also talk about like what he did as president. I mean, I think he didn't do a terrible job because I mean, I think Obamacare is something worth talking about. I mean, it flopped.
Jeannie, what do you think of the future of the Democratic Party?
I think people kind of really overestimate how much progress Black people have made in government. I know we had a Black president for 8 years, but I made a tweet recently. Did you guys know that there are 10 Black senators in the entire history of the United States? 10 U.S. senators, 3 of which are in Congress right now. Obama makes 4, and 6 others beyond that. So think about it. Every single Black senator in the Democratic Party ran for president in 2020. There's another one in South Carolina, Tim Scott. He's a Republican, though. But I think people are really overestimating how Black the Democratic Party is. I know the voting base is Black. The audiences are multiracial. But once you get down to the nitty-gritty, it's a very white party that still needs us to go out and vote for people like Jermaine, shout out, and a bunch of others as well. I think there's so much progress, and that's why we can't get anything done, because we really overestimate how much these people who don't know what it's like to be us really care.
Yeah. Elle?
What do I think of the future of the Democratic Party? Okay. I have no idea. Like, I do not know what is going to happen, and it kind of scares me, to be honest.
You said it scares you?
Yeah, because it's like, from my perspective, it's like, okay, the Democratic Party tends to care about climate change, and climate change. I'm kidding. I can't think of anything right now. But like, climate change is a huge thing for me personally because I live in South Florida, and on top of like, this coronavirus thing, I'm also thinking about hurricane season, which starts now or so, or whenever it feels like. And I just like, from what I see in like the Republican Party, like it doesn't seem like they care about, I guess, like more progressive things. And like, geez, I'm blanking. Probably shouldn't have drank 2 glasses of wine before this.
It's just people having a conversation, and that's completely fine. Going back to Joe Biden, if you guys could pick 3 things that you would like for him to speak on, what would it be? Or maybe like your top thing that you would like for him to kind of like care about. Whoever wants to go first.
Universal basic income. I mean, that may sound cliche, but I mean, the economic, poverty is just like, poverty is the new slavery. And Martin Luther King actually predicted this before he died. He said that that's why he launched the Poor People's Campaign before he died. Part of it was a universal basic income for all Americans. And at the time, before automation, there was a federal jobs guarantee. And so, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like when you think of like all these like people who lived in the past and all that, like they predicted a lot of stuff that would happen. But I think the poverty is just like much more than just, not having money. We have to think about like what money means to everyone. It means it does mean happiness. You know, when people say money doesn't bring happiness, I'm just like, well, talk to somebody in the hood or like, you know, in a trailer park or whatever and tell them that money doesn't bring happiness and see what response you get. Money can, you know, offer resources to people. You know, there are families who are well off who can afford to send their kids to, you know, sign-ups and can afford to give their children SAT prep, which can set them up for college, which can then set them up to be well off after college. And then, you know, where you grow up matters a lot, which is unfortunate. It's definitely unfortunate. But, you know, I think like oftentimes when we talk about like, you know, where like the different parts of town that people live in, like the ghetto, the hood, impoverished places, whatever you want to call it. You know, I don't really think that, you know, the whole it's the whole Black people living in one side of the in one part of a location and white people living in another. I don't really see a problem with people separating themselves. I mean, because I think that's natural. Like, what do you see? Like, I know I went to a diverse high school, and there were a lot of Indians and Asians and stuff like that. They kept to themselves. They weren't mean or anything like that, but they kept to themselves. Like, they stayed in their little group or whatever. Nothing wrong with that. But the thing that's the problem is the fact that people in poverty are concentrated in one area. If Black people weren't in poverty and if Black people had the resources that every other race has, then I wouldn't have a problem with, you know, Black people living in one area. I mean, I can't force people to integrate. People have to do that on their free will. But
so when it comes to like the other top policies, like Tobe, what do you guys think would be a top policy that you would like from Biden?
Yeah, so of course UBI is a big one. I think even just that conversation of, you know, the economics, the poverty, because a lot of it, you know, with Biden's campaign is the return to normalcy. And of course, there are a lot of people who are not doing so well under normalcy. So it's kind of like, I mean, there's a nice base of people, I guess, who just want to go back to normal, but we have to do more to really like bring forward new solutions. So there is UBI. There's talking about, I mean, even like reforming the education system, like a lot of the things that Yang was saying during that one debate about like, you know, we need to do these different things about how people in the household, you know, that's a lot of those factors are why people might not be doing as well in school and the neighborhood that you live in and all these things. And Biden gave some kind of answer about record players and some other stuff. But like, there's so much stuff that could be mentioned. And I feel like Biden is like a blank slate, maybe on purpose, so that there's less to sort of attack on the policy side. And then he can sort of be molded and shaped if he becomes president. While Yang, on the other hand, had so many policies. I remember seeing a post once, and someone in Yang Gang posted this like last year about how Yang is an easy target because he has so much, 100-something policies, and you can nitpick the smallest thing, and everyone can attack him for whatever. But with Biden, he doesn't seem to have a lot of specifics, and I think that would help maybe bring some people in. I mean, he did do something about the bankruptcy bill, kind of reversing some of what he had said about it, and I guess that gave him some progressive points. But really, being able to kind of articulate what has been done, which is kind of an indictment of himself because he's been around for 40 years and he's not been on the right side of some of these issues. But you would have to kind of address some of these economic inequalities more specifically. I'm trying to think of like other specific policies. I think just like meeting the moment of now. I mean, he's not really out here calling for these big changes about like emergency UBI or, you know, rent freezes. I mean, as far as I know, I haven't seen him calling for a lot of these big things. That would be a step. And then you can start molding that into policy.
I think he did talk about freezing. Well, Biden talked about freezing rent.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I did hear him say that.
Okay, so I just haven't been following him as well then. So that's good. So anything that he can kind of latch onto to show that he is the leader in this case, and this is kind of the Democratic response, because right now you have like AOC, you have, you know, other people who are in the, I guess some of the more progressive people. I mean, Maxine Waters was talking a lot about rent. There's a lot of people talking about these different things, and if Biden's not on the forefront of that, and then starting to incorporate that to make his own policies, for being president, then it's like a huge missed opportunity. Otherwise, he's just kind of in the shadows in his basement doing whatever. I'm not really sure right now though what he needs to come up besides UBI like yesterday.
Sorry. I was gonna say I think you guys are right. I also agree. I think UBI. Personally, I wouldn't hear Biden stop talking about Trump. Like I just wish he would focus more on solutions and ignore him. I think that is probably the most annoying thing about Biden at this point for me is he spends all of his time talking about Trump. We get who Trump is. We know that he's this and that. What are the solutions? That's me personally.
What's your thoughts, Jeanne?
I honestly think there's one thing he needs to do. He needs to acknowledge the economy the young people are living in. You know, people go to college, get $60,000, $70,000 in debt to get a job making $30,000, $40,000. I think he needs to acknowledge that the economy has changed since his time.
Yes.
I think he needs to acknowledge his part in it, honestly. I mean, he's been in Congress for 40 years. He's overseen a lot of the decline of the economy. Like, if you think about where the economy was in the 70s, that was the golden age. That's the America everyone wants to make great again. And to get from there to here, I think that's going to be what Trump hits him on, the fact that he's been in the Senate for 40 years and has overseen the decline, the destruction of the American dream. Oh, man, I sound too poetic. But I think he needs to connect more with younger voters on the economy that has been left behind for us and how he's going to fix it. And I think a basic income, I really wish Hillary would have ran on a basic income in 2016. She would have swept.
Well, she was going to.
Yeah, she was
going to, and go ahead, Elle. I'll let you speak on it.
Yeah, so she was going to. Like, apparently it's spoken about in her book. Like, I didn't read her book, Vox did, and they wrote an article about that. And she couldn't get the numbers right. I guess, like, right. So, like, I guess she didn't want to, like, do a value-added tax or tax the rich or anything. So she was just like, I don't know where this money's going to come from, so it's going to go run on being not Trump.
So
hindsight is 2020.
So we're at a point where we're going to take questions from the chat. So we have our first one, which is, how do we feel about, or how I feel about Andrew doing the dividends for Jermaine Johnson's campaign? I think it's absolutely amazing. I feel like he endorsed an amazing candidate. And the reason why I'm very supportive of this is because Jermaine's district, what he's running for, is winnable. It's winnable. And so I think to help leverage Jermaine and South Carolina, I think it's a smart move. We know that South Carolina is going to be a big, huge player come 2024. And I think this is chess, not checkers. And I think that Andrew made a really, really good idea, made a good decision going ahead and launching a UBI pilot there, along with New York, the Bronx. And from my understanding, I could be wrong, they're going to be launching more around the country. So I think it's absolutely amazing that he's doing that for Jermaine. So questions from the chat. So they're just going to come up one at a time, and then whoever wants to answer can answer it. So let's do this. Questions from the chat. We're waiting for Ronald to post them. Okay. Who wants to go first? We're going to do it, Ashley?
So which question?
The screen.
Well, the government will not change without term limits and $5 during choice voting and stopping gerrymandering. UBI would come after as a result.
Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I think, UBI isn't the cure-all. I think we'll, just like we're fighting now for UBI, we'll have to fight for all of those other things. There isn't just like one answer to everything. It's not like we can just like have one policy and just be able to sit back for the rest of our lives and, live in a utopia. I mean, that would be amazing, but that's not how it works. So yeah, I think UBI is definitely the start to a lot of things. Because I think like once we can, break down this whole, or at least start breaking down this whole class system, then we could talk about these establishment type policies.
the next question is, who do you think would be the best VP pick for Biden besides Yang? Who wants to take that one on?
Oof.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I mean, there's a lot of like discussion about what should the pick be. Some people say it should be someone who can help shore up certain electoral support, and they say, okay, Kamala Harris could have been that pick. But then, I mean, she's not ubiquitously loved either in the Black community for sure. So that's kind of hard. And honestly, I'm not really sure who the best VP pick would have been. Biden, I know he said he wanted to have a woman. Okay. I know some people said Stacey Abrams. She is well loved in parts of the Democratic Party, but I'm not sure how that works. Well, anyway, I'm not going to go too much into that one, but it's really hard to give a clear answer. But I would say probably Harris would have been at least better than, I mean, Klobuchar might be that just like standard, but you're not going to get anyone new. Like no one's going to be like, oh, Klobuchar, great. Now I'm going to vote because I wasn't before. I don't even dislike her. It's just like, at least Kamala could have been someone who there's really the excited K-Hive, but I feel like a lot of K-Hive support also goes to Joe anyway. So that maybe not, it's really hard to say. I don't know who the best VP pick could have been that could have really, I mean, some people said Warren, but I'm not sure if Warren people are like sitting out the election. I feel like Warren people are pretty much very much going to vote for Joe anyway. I don't see them as like, I don't hear like Warren or bust. Warren or bust, is that a thing? I don't think so.
I literally saw just like one person ever on the interwebs who was like, oh, if it's not Elizabeth Warren, I'm voting for Trump.
Yeah, that's
okay. That's like, she was the only one. I was like, all right, Warren does it for you. I mean, I love Warren personally. I really like Amy Klobuchar, honestly. I know of all like the controversies that are like stereotypical and, you know, also just really sad when it comes to any person running essentially. But from like what she's like said, like during the debates and stuff, like it was like, she wasn't like, you know, someone who can like gather a crowd and was like, you know, no one could really get excited over Amy Klobuchar. But what I really liked about her was like, she would just tell everyone like all the accomplishments that she's done. And I was like, that's really cool. And I feel like that's something that we should listen to at least. But either her or Elizabeth Warren.
I have nothing to say.
I mean, it's really like a hard question because it's like
hard.
Well, because there's like two parts of the question. It's like which VP would be great for, you know, the advancement of, you know, Black people, and then there's the which VP would likely win Biden the election or would at least like increase his chances. And, you know, I honestly think Klobuchar would increase his chances out of all of the options that I've heard so far.
Right, yeah.
Oh, because I mean, in Minnesota, she's very, very popular. She wins the election by a landslide. Mm-hmm. And she's very popular with farmers, and farmers are, you know, very, very important when it comes to voting, you know, along with, you know, Black voters. And, you know, that means a lot in the Midwest. And so, you know, Biden is already like a safe choice. They know, like, you know, Biden won't increase taxes. I mean, that's what they care about. And you know, farmers have been left behind too. I mean, I remember reading a stat like a while ago saying that, you know, we don't really talk about the farmer suicide rate, and I was like, whoa, like it's highest than other groups, like it's much higher. And then considering that farmers like in rural areas, they don't really have access to mental health or like good healthcare and all of that. So, you know, I think Klobuchar would increase his chances. But for Black people, I mean, out of all of the options that I've heard, I mean, I honestly think Warren. I mean, because I mean, what's her name? Abrams. She would be a good face. I mean, I don't know if she'd get Black people to go out and vote. Kamala.
Maybe in Georgia.
I think
really help Georgia turn more purple.
Abrams would be great for like a position in the cabinet, not necessarily VP though for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then Kamala. I mean, I think there's a reason. Like I remember, like this one stat. It showed that Yang was beating Kamala in her own state.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm just like,
Yes.
I mean, if you can't even win California and you're a senator there, then I don't really think you'd add much as a VP. I mean, it's just facts. If you can't even excite your race, well, I think that's kind of like stereotypical, you know, like a blackface gets black people to vote. I don't think like that, but still, I don't think Kamala will, you know, excite black voters, and I don't think she'll excite the people in the Midwest. Actually, she won't excite people in the Midwest to vote, and that's who Biden needs.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, like Yang, who had no name recognition, outlasted all these people.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that says a lot. The next question is, I think the Yang gang goes too hard for UBI and should focus on the other policies that will result in UBI. Much of the country still equates UBI to a socialist handout, which is not, but perception. Thoughts?
I'm going to take this one.
All right.
Yes, Yang gang goes way too hard for UBI. Like, I know it's like the core Yang policy, but I do think that UBI is one of the things that's going to make our society much better. It's not the thing from Yang. I love his healthcare plan, which brings costs down while also raising more taxes. I love his democracy reform, which will put money directly into people's, oh gosh, I'm saying it again, but you know the catchphrase, to give directly towards politicians that they want to donate to. I think, to be honest, I think some of Yang's policies will matter more than UBI.
Oh.
Oh man.
I disagree. I completely disagree. I respect your opinion, Jeannie, and I definitely think, you know, his Medicare bill was definitely, I think his Medicare bill was good. I mean, as far as like, you know, transitioning to maybe a single payer, I don't know what his end goal was, but I know I did hear him say that, you know, single payer was a good idea. But healthcare is very important. But I remember I saw this tweet. I think it was from like Scott Santons, the Verified Scott. He was like, you know, people always need money. I mean, while healthcare is important, I mean, people don't need to go to the doctor every single day.
Right, but people need groceries like every week.
People need groceries. People need, you know, gas to go to the station. People need, you know, money to get on the bus. They need
pay their bills.
Yeah, to pay their bills. Exactly. You know, when you don't have that, then, you know, healthcare doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters, but I'm saying like, you know, I'm talking about like what goes on through a person's head. They're not like, you know, I'm coughing and, you know, I'm kind of like worried about something. Oh, I need to go to the doctor and spend $100 on a doctor's visit. Like, no, you know, if they have kids, their kids become a priority. Like putting food on the table becomes a priority. Right. So I think UBI is, I do think UBI is like the most important policy I've heard of. I mean, I think democracy dollars and all of that. Yeah. You know, it's kind of hard because I feel like,
I've got ranked choice voting though too. Let's add. I think ranked choice voting could be something that Andrew can run on as be more vocal about. And I also feel like he downplays his education. Not downplays, but he doesn't speak enough about his education policies. The technology and teaching financial literacy in schools is a game changer. It's absolutely a game changer. And making sure that teachers have an increase in pay, that teachers have resources. But he did come out yesterday and say, mention the 4-day work week, which is something that a lot of people are a fan of and trying to, not that that's a policy because that's obviously the discretion of a business or whatnot. But yeah. So
what I'm trying to say is though, acting like the universal basic income is the Band-Aid that's going to tape together our broken society is one of the main criticisms that a lot of the progressives had about us. And I think that we should emphasize more of the democracy reform. We should emphasize more of the healthcare reform, because if we have a free healthcare system, Black women are dying in childbirth at 300 times the rate. I mean, 3 times the rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we don't fix the system, then they'll just die for free.
You know, Elle brought up climate. Elle brought up climate change earlier, and Andrew actually had this really interesting idea about climate change, about planting trees, and he pulled the data from South America, I want to say, but there was this whole this whole tree policy that he mentioned when I want to say he was on CNN. I would love to hear more about his thoughts on that. I know that sounds really weird, but you know, we noticed with COVID that when we drive less, carpool, all that stuff, that it actually helps the environment. Mm-hmm. And I would love to hear him talk about climate change a little bit more than he does, because I do think that that's really important. And it's not just because I'm a science teacher, but we definitely want to make sure that we have a world that we can leave to our kids. And COVID really showed that if we all just do our part, we could actually really help the environment significantly. Next question is from Darla, and I think this might be our last question. What are your thoughts on Ying's views of reparations, and what do you think is the best approach to reparations?
No one wants to touch this with a 10-foot pole. Let me start this one. Then. All right, so I am pro reparations, but I think you can't pay us back for all the trouble if you're still doing it. I think we need to first free all the nonviolent drug offenders from prison, put $1,000 a month in everyone's hands, stop the redlining, stop the gerrymandering, democracy dollars, and then we can go to reparations.
Preach, Jeannie, preach.
That's my honest opinion, because I mean, if you're going to give us some money and keep punching us in the face, keep killing us in the street, I don't want it.
Yeah. I think, you know, we need to like, huh?
I said, feel free to disagree.
No, I agree with you. Like, I think like when having conversations about reparations, we need to talk about what reparations looks like. I don't think reparations looks like cash all of the time. Like in my mind, I see reparations as, you know, increasing the quality of living of African Americans. Like when you go into, you know, predominantly Black neighborhoods that are like impoverished, you know, you see, you know, sidewalks cracked, you see grass, you know, all the way up to the sky or whatever. And then, you know, you see there's a lot of, you know, poverty and crime go hand in hand. And I feel like that needs to be discussed. But like I had this idea of like how I would like, you know, Black communities to look. Like I feel like if the government could show that Black people matter by you know, even doing something as simple as, you know, improving the home structures in Black communities, and, you know, fixing the infrastructure and stuff like that, and adding state-of-the-art transportation systems. And, you know, because I know, like, I lived in Houston, but I think this is everywhere, where, like, you go to in the Black neighborhoods and you go into predominantly white neighborhoods, and then you see, like, this stark contrast in, like, how these neighborhoods look. So, like, how do you think Black people, Black kids are supposed to go home and say, you know, I matter? Like when they go home to, you know, an environment that doesn't really, that doesn't even really show that they matter. I feel like your environment can definitely increase how you feel about yourself. And it's been shown that nature increases mental health. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the reason why I've been considering more and more in getting into architecture, because I feel like there's a place for nature and architecture. Yeah. And especially predominantly Black neighborhoods. I feel like it increases, I know you're a science teacher, Aarika. I mean, it increases kids' curiosity and like their environment, and it makes people care more about, like, you know, how their surroundings looks. I don't know, it just sparks this curiosity in them. And then, you know, it's also good for the environment. So, I mean, I see reparations of a lot of stuff. So, I mean, it's not really just cash. I feel like, you know, we should probably go into these Black neighborhoods and ask how can I increase your quality of life? Because money isn't the end all be all. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into quality of life.
Well, this has been so much fun. This was our first day, our first episode. It's been amazing. Thank you to everyone that joined in today. We hope that you subscribe to the channel, that you come visit us every single Tuesday. There's gonna be different people on, sharing their points of views, and it's gonna be just a really fun time every Tuesday at 6:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So thank you so much to everyone that's here, and we will see you next Tuesday. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Bye, you guys.
Bye, all.